Many of the economic winds are blowing in the right direction, but the problem is that many of the political winds are now blowing in the wrong direction. We see the rise of Trump and other far-right regimes around the world spreading climate denial conspiracy theories. We've seen a slowdown of some policy action here at home, both by the current and previous UK governments and, I have to say, by the Scottish government, where the energy strategy has been delayed, the heat and buildings bill has been delayed. That's supposed to help us get off the gas grid for our heating, and if we do that right, it's a really important way to cut people's energy bills too. So we really need to accelerate the action if we're going to be serious. But I think Nigel's point about the lack of trust that people should have, whether it's investors or anyone else in the oil companies, is absolutely right. And we've known for decades that these are companies that initially created and then boosted the climate denial movement, spent decades covering up what they knew and denying the truth, then spent another decade, maybe 1.5 decades, moving away from climate denial into climate delay, saying, yes, there must be a transition, but not yet. And now, even after having said for a little while that they're committed to the transition and they want to be part of it, they're slashing their investment. Their investment in renewables was always marginal. It's now pretty much, being abandoned. But it's so we cannot have any trust in those companies. We do need to make sure that there's a strong future for their workforce, who have a really important role to play.
Well, I mean, they're going to look after their workforce because they're going to keep these jobs open. There's no need for a transition because they're not going to transition from oil to gas.
Not at all. Even under the status quo of fossil fuel production, oil and gas jobs have not been maintained at previous numbers. Oil and gas jobs are not safe for the long term from those companies' own plans. What we need if the workforce is going to have a genuinely long-lasting, successful future for individuals working there and for the communities that are dependent is full square investment in the transition, the transition to renewables and to technologies like green hydrogen. And government needs to make that happen, for example, by taxing the wildly excessive profits of the fossil fuel companies.
Right, so big tax on companies like BP when they make announcements like this. Punishment.
Not punishment. It's a question of making sure that the people who've caused the crisis pay for the transition. In much the same way as President Zelensky has been saying, yes, it's Russian frozen assets, and Keir Starmer's agreed, Russian frozen assets should pay for the defence of Ukraine. Yeah, the people who've caused the problem should be paying for the transition. And it's the oil and gas companies who've been raking it in for decades and slowing down the action that's necessary.
We keep being told by politicians like yourself that this just transition is fantastic. This is what's going to save jobs. It's going to move the industry to the right place.
If we get it right, it will do.
Well, yeah, but it had its first big test last month, didn't it, at Grangemouth? This safety net that the just transition is meant to offer, where if your job in fossil fuels goes, don't worry, you'll fall, but you'll be caught by this safety net that will give you a job in green renewables. They didn't. 400 workers were told their jobs were going, and they hit the dirt with redundancy notices. There was no safety net there for them.
Yeah, exactly. It demonstrates that the kind of private owners that we see at Grangemouth don't, frankly, give two thoughts.
But it was the government that was meant to come in with this safety net.
Well, there has been no just transition in that instance because the power has been left with the private companies. And for decades, they have known that ultimately they will make changes that are going to put the future livelihoods of those communities at risk. Government needs to take power back from the kind of profiteers who've been making themselves billionaires, dodging their taxes in many instances, and simply not investing in the alternative future that those industries and those communities need. A just transition cannot be delivered by the private sector. They've demonstrated that they cannot be trusted to care about it.